we've built up a pretty good tolerance with the lifting that we do, and we could have some of the lifting and some of the exercises that we do be actually really like modest, where the workout leaves you feeling better.
Instead of having 6 days that continue to beat you up, maybe in between that, you have a workout that, like I call it a flow workout. You can do a full body thing, get blood flow everywhere, but it's much lighter weight and you're just driving blood to your tissues.
Ideally, you would love to be able to work out and almost forget that you worked out. You could still be a meathead. You could still go in and train with a lot of intensity. It's just that like you might want to pick and choose your battles, pick and choose how hard you want your workouts to be. It's a long game. The easier that it is for you to be jacked, or the easier that it is for you to be shredded, the longer you're going to be able to maintain that.
So Falgor was pretty messed up. But
crazy
also,
you remember the names of this stuff.
Falgor.
When you're terrified, and then also Atreyu losing. Dude, okay, Nsima, this is within the first like few minutes. The movie starts. The characters are like starting to get announced. Atreyu is the hero of this movie.
Mm-hmm.
He has a dope-ass white horse.
Atreyu.
Within the first like couple scenes, the horse dies in fucking quicksand.
Oh, man.
The most devastating thing you could ever think of. And that's, yay, kids, let's watch this.
So this is for kids.
Yes.
And we're already killing animals.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Cool.
Dude.
In quicksand, no less.
Yeah, it's a slow, just, and he's crying. Nah, I don't know the horse's name, but like it's like the saddest thing ever.
It's sad.
Yeah, dog.
And there's like a weird rock guy, and oh, dude, it was a very disturbing. Like I don't know if that was like claymation or whatever it was, but super disturbing stuff.
Mm.
You know, recently I watched, because there's a new Chucky Child's Play on Amazon. So recently I actually was like, you know what? Let me try and face my fears and just like watch the shit. And I did. I actually feel proud. I'm still deathly scared of Chucky. And if I ever see a Chucky doll, neither of you guys fuck with me. Do not ever buy one and bring one to this gym, because I will never trust you for the rest of my life. But with that being said, I felt good that I actually watched it. But you're not, you don't like it, but you're not like,
no.
Yeah, see, me, Chucky, ventriloquist dummies, we don't
Under
mix.
the bed.
Fuck that, bro.
Achilles tendon.
Oh my God. Yeah. Was that in the original Child's Play?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
He slices the Achilles tendon. Yeah.
Oh, God.
What's wrong with that doll?
Yeah, dog.
That's a rough injury.
Yeah. All dolls just generally make me uncomfortable. If they're very human-like, they make me uncomfortable. So it's just a thing.
Yeah, the more human they get, the scarier it gets.
See, look, here's the lizard dog thing.
That's
kind
kind
of
on like
cute.
the front or whatever, like on the fucking VHS tape back in the day.
Wait up,
Yeah.
that's scary? That's
No,
kind of
he was a good one.
Okay.
Yeah, that's Falgor.
Yeah, but there's some flying thing though too, or is he fly?
He flies.
Oh.
Yeah, when he flies, he looks just like kind of like a turd in the air.
Oh, God.
He was cool. But yeah.
I did a run today and it wasn't great because I just kind of got out for my run at the wrong time. It's just like 7,000 degrees outside.
Yeah. It was like 103 when you were out, right?
Oh, yeah, it's supposed to be like even hotter tomorrow. I heard like 112.
Oh,
I love it. I love it.
Heat shock proteins, I guess.
Yeah. It's your own sauna out there, man.
Yeah, it's weird when you're running. You're like, is this too dangerous? You're like, I feel okay.
I got to carry the boats.
Yeah, but there's a difference, right? Between like feeling okay and then all of a sudden, like, and then you hear about people all the time, you know, passing out or this happens or that happens. Like, oh, he was fine. And then all of a sudden, and you're like, is that me? Or am I doing okay? And it felt okay, but it also felt a little sketchy because it's just how hot it was. But running in the Arboretum is really nice because the trees and stuff, you get some shade here and there. So it wasn't too awful. And I ran with Ryan and with my brother's girlfriend. So it's always good to have a little crew with you. It makes it a lot easier, you know?
Let me ask you, Mark, how do you feel out there getting all that sun? How do you feel about that? Yeah, I'm going to send something to Andrew that I want him to pull up.
I'd love to talk about the sun for a little bit before we get into some of the other stuff we're going to be talking about. But, you know, first of all, I'll just say I love the sun. I love going out there and getting the sun. And that's different for me than years ago. Years ago, I didn't really like getting the sun. But part of the reason why I didn't like getting the sun is because I was super pale. And I wasn't used to the sun. I didn't like take any time to build a solar callus. But years ago, when I started going to Bodega Bay a little bit more and going to the beach and stuff like that, I wanted to get outside a little bit more. And I just started to kind of quickly learn that I could actually and this is before I even learned that there was anything wrong with like sunscreens and stuff like that. I just started to kind of learn like, oh, like the sun feels too hot. I need to like go inside. I need to, you know, get shade. I need to, you know, go under an umbrella, or maybe at that point, maybe I would need like a sunscreen or something like that. But anyway, over time period, I got myself more used to the sun and more adapted to the sun. But I don't believe that the way that we treat the sun nowadays, I don't think is healthy. I don't think it's smart. I think that most people, they're not out in the sun often enough, right? And then the summer comes along here in Sacramento, and then people start laying out like by their pool.
Yeah.
And that's not really smart, especially if you're very pale and you just haven't gotten used to the sun yet.
It's literally like, you know, you never squat and then you're like, I think squatting's great. And then you put 315 on a bar. That's what it's like.
And you go in, you push way too hard and make yourself way too sore. And it's not great to damage your skin, but even something like, you know, people thinking that even something like a modest sunburn is super dangerous. It's just not. Getting a sunburn is just a natural reaction to the sun pounding down on you for maybe too long. And if you were to think about it, like in, you know, over the years, I'm sure that people just, whether they were white or black or any other color, they probably got the sun. They're like, oh, that's too much. It's way too hot out today. And then what'd they do? They like went in for shelter, or they like went in the shade. It seems pretty simple. That's what the animals do. You look at cows that are outside, like they're all huddled up like under a tree a lot of times. So I think humans kind of need to do the same thing. And this idea of like sunbathing maybe isn't the healthiest thing in regards to the way that we do it, since we're not normally getting much sun exposure the rest of the year.
And the reason why I brought this up is because I saw this from Brian Johnson, and this man is very pale. I wonder what his like 23andMe and where he's generally from. But he says a suntan is not a sign of health. It's a sign that your skin has been damaged and will sag, wrinkle, and discolor faster. Get just the right amount of sun, not too much and not too little. Plus earlier in the day and later in the evening, and when the UV index is below 3 and 4. And that's probably a good thing for people who don't get much sun to do already, right? But
yeah, again, when you're pale and you haven't built any sort of tolerance towards the sun, but I would just say that he's 100% wrong. Some of the strongest kind of anti-cancer properties that your body can produce actually come from the sun. The melanin and things like that are super powerful. So obviously, yes, can the sun make you look older? Yeah. I mean, we've seen that time and time again with many people where they just look like they got overexposed to either the actual sun or like tanning beds. You know, that kind of like aerobic instructor tanning bed kind of look. It's a real thing. And, you know, for myself, it's hard for me to like judge stuff because I was so big. I was 330 pounds. And so, you know, my skin, I do have skin that kind of hangs a little bit from when I was bigger, but it's very minimal. You know, it's not like some of these bigger people when you see them lose weight. And so, yeah, I mean, my skin, like as I look at it, it definitely looks aged. It looks older, but I don't care. I think that's good. I am older. I don't mind it.
And just like your ability to handle more sun and do more out there, it's like, it's reaping a health benefit. You know what I mean? You're not going out there without a callus that you've built,
right,
you know? So it's one of those things where it's like, I don't know, why be more delicate? But at the same time, for any of our listeners that are, you know, brown, Mexican, black, get out in the sun more. Because I think like my ancestors, I'm first generation here. So everyone before me was in Nigeria bathing in sunlight all day long. So it's even more important that I make sure to get out there. So if you're black or you're brown, your ancestors got a lot of sun, don't sit inside. Look. All right, try to get out there and get some sun.
This is, I think, what everybody thinks when they're like, oh, if you get out into the sun too much, you're going to look like the girl from There's Something About Mary or the neighbor.
That's amazing.
Yeah, she's like, I don't remember where like the set was, like, or like where the, you know, supposedly that movie took place, but she just was like a retired Miami person, always in the sun. So her skin was just like always super dark. And I think that's what people think will happen to everybody. But I don't know. It's sort of like when people think like, I don't want to get too muscular. I don't want to lift weights. It's like, well, it's going to take a long time.
Got to build up a tolerance towards stuff. And that's some of the subject of today is that, you know, we've built up a pretty good tolerance with the lifting that we do. And we could have some of the lifting and some of the exercises that we do be actually really like modest. And as you were mentioning, saying these could be like a flow workout, where the workout is an input that leaves you feeling better than you did when you started, which is amazing. Because like, I don't think we think of exercise or fitness that way a lot of times. You're thinking like, I'm going to go in the gym and I'm going to kill the weights and I'm going to like destroy myself on it. Or you're thinking like, I'm going in and I'm trying to like break down a bunch of tissue. And that can be the goal sometimes. That can be what you're actually trying to do. But it doesn't have to be that way all the time.
Absolutely. And, you know, the thing is one of the biggest aspects of recovery, it's just a concept that we talk about all the time, is the idea of just blood flow, right? So if you're someone who you are bodybuilding, right, you're trying to actually, you know, tear down tissue to build more, or you're powerlifting, or you're doing jujitsu, one of the things that can help you recover better between each session is doing things like walks, right, which help get blood flow everywhere. Or, you know, instead of having 6-day workouts, like 6 days that continue to beat you up, maybe in between that you have a workout that, like I call it a flow workout, you can call it a deload, whatever you want, but it's a workout that is meant for you to get into the gym. You can do a full body thing, get blood flow everywhere, but it's much lighter weight and you're just driving blood to your tissues. That's just going to help you the next day feel better and feel more recovered. And even after that session, you'll probably feel better and less sore than when you went in, because you didn't beat yourself up and you got blood flow everywhere. So it's a really easy thing that you can do to easily aid your recovery.
But Nsima, I'm already tired and you want me to work out a little bit more? Why?
Yeah, there's a lot of things that people can do, and this is one of the things we'll talk about. But I think that getting a bit of movement in is better than sitting around sometimes. So like sometimes sitting down and resting is good. I'm not going to say it's not. It is. But I know that if I were to do a hard workout, like I went to jujitsu today, right, and then came here, right, if I didn't do anything, I'd still feel a little bit of tightness and soreness in my back afterwards. But instead, while I was in the parking lot before this, I did quite a bit of rope flow and rotated my spine, and my spine now feels like it's decompressed and better post jujitsu than if I didn't do anything. So the main thing to figure out is, what practices do we have at our disposal that can help us feel better after hard exercise or a hard day of training? What do we have access to? And we have a lot of access to a lot of different things that we're going to talk about today.
How about like energy wise though? Like how does your energy level feel after that simple rope flow?
Better, because this is one of those weird things. You'll feel tired before a light movement practice or a walk.
I don't want to do it.
Right? Exactly.
That's how you feel like a big baby, right?
Yeah, before a walk or before doing some rope flow.
You're like, I should do it though.
And then after you do it, it's low intensity. After you do it, you actually end up feeling like you have more energy than before. It's a weird thing, but it's like, it's that's how I feel generally with a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, you get more energy from doing stuff. That's how, you know, Cam Hanes runs like a half marathon for lunch. You know, that's how those people get to those levels of being able to do that kind of stuff, because over a period of time, they build up to it. I think in Nsima, you were talking about your friend Chris, that is he police officer as well, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you were talking about your friend Chris, who, you know, you're like, man, he seems like he does so much in a day. But we've talked about it and we're like, well, that's amazing that he does all that in a day, but it also is something that he built up to over time, right? So and also as a police officer, it's like he has to show up a very particular way every single time. So he's got to be pretty diligent with his sleep and with the management of his training and everything, right?
Yeah, no, across the board. Like I haven't really met anybody, and I've told him this before. I'm like, dude, like you see the people I'm around, because he checks out the podcast too. I'm like, you work just as hard or harder than pretty much everybody. Like, it's crazy what you're doing. He's like, oh, you know, I'm just, you know, trying to do my thing. I'm like, you're not just trying, like you're doing really well. The thing that, where I, like, for me personally, like I need to understand is like jiu-jitsu for him, he's so efficient with it, right? Just like you and Nsima, like a hard session for you is like, for me, like I'd be floored for the rest of the week. You know, it's like really hard on me. So really hard on, the other stuff, though, is where like I can kind of pick up a little bit of the slack, you know, like for the training stuff and all that. But because I give so much to jiu-jitsu right now, it's hard for me to continue that same effort everywhere else. And so like I have to pull back until maybe I become a little bit more efficient with the jiu-jitsu side of things. Yeah.
Yeah, being in better shape, a lot of the stuff that we had Josh Settlage on the show recently talking about your general physical preparedness and just having like certain stuff that you do, other people viewing it as being like a lot or it being crazy. And it's just Tuesday for you. It's just, par for the course. It's normal for you. It's just part of what you do. I think that's what you want to be able to get to. And before we started, Nsima was kind of saying, I should, maybe hit up a little bit more running. I think for somebody to get themselves, I guess it would depend on like, what sport you're doing and so on. But like, I think it would be wise for most people to be able to string together a few minutes of being able to run, maybe for a power lifter, if you can run for 3 to 5 minutes and then take a little rest and do, a repeat of that for a set or two. Maybe that would be, that would probably be more than most power lifters would even want to do. But that's low-hanging fruit, something very easy for people to get to. But I think in general, I think it'd be good for people to work their way to be able to run for about 20 minutes straight. And it's just a jog. You don't really need to associate any sort of, you don't have to go 2 miles in 20 minutes or anything. You just cruise. And I think what you'll find is that over time, like at first that will suck. At first, running for 8 minutes is going to suck. At first, running for 10 and 12 and so on, it's going to be a little difficult, and it's probably going to make you pretty sore, all the way to the point where your feet might be sore, your calves might be sore, your ankles, everything might be really sore. But if you were to ask any of your friends that, run more than 10 or 15 miles a week, which isn't anything crazy. We heard Pete Rubish recently talk about running 100 miles a week. So once you build out a capacity for it, then it feels like nothing. So if you were asked one of these people like, hey man, do your feet and ankles and calves hurt? And they'd be like, well, yeah, a little bit, because I ran 12 miles yesterday or something, they might say. And you'd be like, what the hell? Like that seems like a lot of work. Your feet should probably hurt way worse than they do, but the body adapts. You get used to it.
Yeah. And just the big thing there is try to do it in a way like you just mentioned, just don't let it beat you up. Don't try to go for a certain pace. And when you feel like you need to stop, just stop and take a walk, right? But like the way I'm going to be doing that, because I do a lot of sprinting now and I love that, but I don't do a lot of running. So for the running thing, I'm just going to try to just make it a morning habit, right? And when I wake up in the morning, I'm going to try to maybe just go for like a 10 to 20 minute, just a light run. That doesn't take anything out of me for the rest of the day. And over time, I know I'm going to be able to increase that time naturally as I just get used to it, as technique gets better, all these things improve. It'll just be something where I'll be able to do 30 minutes, maybe 5 or 6 weeks from now. Then maybe I'll be able to just do consistent 40-minute light runs 3 months from now.
I think, unfortunately, when we're young, no one really tells us anything. You know, so it's like you had a great test when you were a kid where you run 2 miles. Like that's a test that they do in soccer, right? And you
the Cooper,
or I'm sorry, you run for X amount of minutes and you see how far you can get. Or
no, I think the Cooper is like
I forget. I'm losing track.
Can you look up the Cooper real quick, Andrew? Yeah, the Cooper is a test that we do in soccer, and it sucked. It fucking sucked. But yeah, when he finds it, we'll be able to read what it is.
Yeah. But I think, sometimes like your coach just kind of yells at you to go do that shit.
Yeah.
And they're not maybe necessarily like explaining, like, guys, listen, this is going to help give you the capacity that you need to be able to play the game the way you need to play.
Yeah.
And to be able to recover, like recovering from a soccer match is got to be brutal.
Yeah.
All the stopping and starting. And I think I've heard people say that you might run, depending on your position, up to like 7 miles.
Midfielders, yep.
And it's not, it's not just like, it's not like a little casual run. You're really hauling ass when you're out there.
Yeah. So the Cooper, according to the old Google, says that it's a test for distance for 12 minutes. So however far you can get in 12 minutes.
Yeah. The goal is to try to do 2 miles.
Right.
The goal for all the guys on the soccer field is to try to do 2 miles in that for the Cooper.
Flying 6-minute mile paces.
Yeah. That's wild.
So, and I can't believe I actually did that.
That's amazing. That really is amazing.
That's the thing. It's like, I couldn't imagine running at that pace at this point in my life. Just I haven't.
It's great how coaches are too. They're like, they don't size anything up. They're not like, all right, well, you're a little heavier than everybody else on the field,
Yeah.
They make no adjustments.
Being able to handle the stresses of your day, the stress of exercise, and being able to stick to your nutrition plan takes good rest and good quality sleep the night before. And if your mouth is opening during sleep, or if you're snoring, well, your sleep quality is compromised. That's why we partnered with the best mouth tape in the game, Hostage Tape. If you have a beard, it's going to stay on. If you have a CPAP, it's going to stay on. This tape is not going to fall off your mouth like most other tapes do when you're asleep. And to enhance the way you breathe through your nose, they also have nose strips.
Head over to hostagetape.com/powerproject where you can get a 3-month supply of hostage tape for only 65 cents a night. On top of that, you're going to receive a free pack of nose strips as well as a bedside tin. Again, that's at hostagetape.com/powerproject. Links in the description as well as the podcast show notes. In the past, Mark, you have said like when somebody if you want to have like a successful fast, you have to act like the fast didn't happen. Because what we do is like, oh, I fasted today, so I'm going to just freaking go nuts and eat all of the food at night or whatever it may be. Should you treat some of these lighter runs the same way? As in like, I worked out today, so I'm not going to do the run, or I'm going to have a rest day, so that's when I'm going to do the run. Or can you just kind of throw it in whenever and then just act like it didn't happen so that way you can still have your regular training session?
I think ideally you would love to be able to work out and almost forget that you worked out. I actually think that that's like a pretty good goal. Like yesterday I was like, oh man, I was going to lift and I totally forgot. And I'm like, no, I did like 8 sets of deadlifts. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
But it just didn't hurt. It didn't bother me. It didn't stiffen up my body. And I was handling some pretty good weights and stuff. It felt really good. But I think that's the point that you want to try to get yourself to where you can just shake off, you know, some of these workouts and stuff. I've actually just kind of as a superpower have always viewed when I go home and I take a shower that I'm just like washing everything away. And I've always viewed it as like, once I take this shower, all the pain, all the recovery that I need, it's happening right here. I'm washing all the bad shit away and like fucking starting over. Mm-hmm. So I've always kind of had that mindset, and the shower just feels good to me. It's like it feels like rejuvenating. It almost feels like coming out of a hot tub or something like that. So I've always kind of viewed that way. But to kind of answer the question more directly, I think that your workouts, especially if you're trying to implement like some running or you're newer to lifting, just really just understand you need to take your time on all this stuff. I know we repeat this all the time. We say this over and over again. But I think it's like one of the attributes of the podcast is that we do share with people that this stuff does take a long time. We're welcome to like use many different protocols. Like why not, you know, rather than freak out and be all mad about whether the science is correct on cold plunging, why not just use some cold plunging where you think it's appropriate? And if you enjoy it and if you feel it's working well, why not use the sauna that way? Why not use particular workouts that way? But you should be putting in inputs that are new, should be very, very modest, very light, very easy. And no matter how many times you say that, anyone that you would advise, anybody that you would try to assist with starting to run, starting to jog, they're all going to run too fast, almost no matter what you do. Like you just can't. That's why I tell people sometimes just jog as slow as you can. Literally go out and do something that represents a jog and jog as slow as you can. That has its own challenge to it, by the way. Like it has a different rhythm and different bounce to it than like actually just running. But I think it's really easy to go out there and get hurt. It is really easy to go out there and get hurt. To go and like, just because you have the capacity to maybe run at like a 9-minute mile pace or a 10-minute mile pace, you do that for more than like a mile or two and you're not used to it, you will most likely have some big time regressions. And then you're not only going to mess up your running, you're going to mess up whatever else the other things are that you wanted to do, whether it be lifting or jujitsu or whatever. Yeah,
that's why if you want to do more like multiple of these things, you got to give the progression at that thing time. Most of you are probably really good at lifting. And maybe right now, a light session of lifting doesn't take much out of you. So you got to think of like, if I want to progress at this running thing and I don't want it to take away from my lifting, and I want running, because for me, my goal is for a light run just to be like a recovery thing, that it doesn't take anything from me. It actually helps, right? That means that I have to actually just take it super slowly. So it doesn't really take much away from lifting. And I might have one run every week or one run every week and a half or 2 weeks. That is a bit hard. That I'll feel the next day. But for the most part, those runs won't be like that. Because at this point, even too, sprinting, when I do sprint workouts, it doesn't take much out of me at all anymore. It actually feels really good.
And for what, maybe 3 weeks, it made you kind of sore?
Yeah, well,
Maybe
yeah,
longer.
but more so when I was progressing my sprint workouts, I wasn't putting as much intensity into those sprints. Like I was going at like a sprint pace, but it wasn't 100%. It was like 50%, 60%. And over time, I started feeling more comfortable in how much I could put into those sprints. So now I could do like multiple hill sprints at like an 80 or 90%, and I won't feel wrecked the next day. I can still go to jujitsu and do other things. That probably would have wrecked me for weeks.
It kind of feels fun.
It's
Right.
it absolutely feels fun. Because like I can put everything through my body. You know what I mean? And I didn't used to be able to do that. I used to think I'd like pull a hamstring or something.
Yeah, I think pretty much every time I run, maybe not every time I lift. Yeah, not every time I lift, but most of the time when I lift or run, it's usually really fun. Almost every single time. Every once in a while, just for random reasons, I still might go out and run and breathe like a fat kid. And I'm like, this is the most but I'm sure that happens in like jujitsu and stuff where you have a day where you're just like, I've been doing this for a couple years and this sucks today.
Sometimes you're the nail.
Yeah, like I'm going backwards. But man, I also don't have like a ton of running experience. I'm still getting used to it. So I'm still new. Like it's just going to take a while. And to your point, Nsima, talking about just building capacity to be able to do a recovery run. If that's someone's goal that's listening to this, then yeah, just take your runs and do them really modestly. Like it's a great opportunity to get outside, to go and like look at some cool scenery, like go run somewhere that's like cool or motivating or exciting rather than just running on the track. Like I personally hate the track.
Fuck the track.
I don't love running on the track. It's the worst. So, find somewhere that's a little bit more motivating than that, but also maybe just jog / run-ish for like 2 minutes. And then you kind of realize like, I'm pretty tired. Like I'm breathing pretty hard. Maybe hold on for like another 30 seconds and then just walk. Literally just walk for a little while. If it's all new to you and you don't have a great capacity for it just yet, you're going to get better doing anything. So why not? Let's just take a nice slow path with it. 2-3 weeks, you'll be running for 20 minutes easily. But if you start out faster, you're never going to really have that opportunity. Be like, yeah, I tried running a while back. I just fucking hate it. And I ask someone, oh, well, something happened. And more often than not, it's their back. It's their shin splints. And I don't care who the person is, no matter who it is, anyone that talks about having shin splints, you have shin splints because you're not in shape. You have shin splints because you're not in shape for what it is that you're doing. And some people are like, but I run a 6-minute mile pace. You're not in shape to do that speed. If you went slower, you wouldn't have shin splints.
That's true, actually.
So it's, people get really frustrated, but take your time, get better at it, build out that capacity. And then once you start to build out that capacity for running and for lifting, now you can get into doing all kinds of stuff. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think what Bones Jones is doing is fucking awesome. I see him like swimming. I see him like on his bike. I just see him doing a good variety of stuff. And to me, it looks like he's having fun.
That's the whole point though, right?
Right? It doesn't look like, you look at some of his stuff and even the heavy lifting, I know that that's something that he loves to do. Mm-hmm. He's doing these like heavy squats and stuff. He did 525, I think, for a triple the other day, box squat. I mean, he's handling some really good weights. And then he's also mixing in, doing all this other work. And it's not like, I'm sure that, yeah, we could say like, oh, if he worked on things that he had, that if he worked on his weaknesses, that maybe he'd be better. But it looks like he knows what he's doing. It looks like he knows what he's doing. And it looks like that's a really good route for most people to go, like, especially if you're not trying to be the highest level, you're not trying to be the greatest of all time in stuff. Why plague yourself with doing tons of shit that you really honestly just don't like to do?
That and like, the big thing is trying to have fun with this physical stuff over a long period of time. And, a lot of people want to build muscle and that's great. Lean body mass is a great thing to do, but it's over time, it becomes about more than just having muscle. It becomes about having like the ability to do different things that you can enjoy. Because if you think about running right now and you're like, oh, I hate that. It's going to make me lose muscle. Oh, it's hard. You got to breathe hard. It's because you just don't have a capacity for that right now. But if you did, if you had some capacity to be able to run, you'd really enjoy just going outside. It's simple, going outside, putting on some shoes and just going on a nice little run, right? That's really enjoyable. And what I think about is like, fuck, 20, 30, 40 years from now, I'd love to continue to be able to do that. I wouldn't want the only thing that I had the ability to do would be to go into a gym and rip a barbell off the ground. Not that I wouldn't enjoy that, because I still do, but if that's the only type of fitness I truly have access to that I enjoy, that's pretty limiting.
You'd probably be super duper tight too. Yeah. So for somebody that hasn't been implementing running of any kind, they have been the gym bro, or maybe they're just the power lifter. And then for you and Nsima also, like, what do you think you're going to be focusing on, to make the body hurt less when it comes to running, right? Like, what should they be focused on? Like some of the things, because, right, we think I'm going to just put my shoes on and I'm going to go run. And then they start running and they're even at a good pace, but just throwing it out there as an example, they're heavy on their feet. They're like, you can hear them running a block down the road, like, so stuff like that. Like, is there something else that they should be considering when it comes to like, all right, make sure you try to avoid this, because if not, then by next week, you're going to be like, you're going to quit again.
And by the way, guys, I do want to mention, we're talking about some running stuff right now, but we'll talk about a lot of other stuff that you'll be able to do at low intensity. But just letting you know that, I mean, Josh mentioned it on his podcast, doing some things to take care of your feet. He mentioned that that's actually something that really helped him out, right? I know, Mark, you probably have a bunch of other things, but maybe after each run, do some or before and after each run, do some hand-foot glove, decompress the foot a little bit, get yourself a soft ball to rub on the bottom of the fascia of your feet, right? That'll help also release some tension, but it'll also help drive some blood there to help your feet recover over time. There's a bunch of other things you could do for your ankles, but that's just a few things you could do to take care of your feet before and after runs.
Can you pull up Sean Baker's IG? He's been doing a lot of cool stuff lately. I've seen him doing pogo hops. I mean, that's what I would recommend. Of course, you can jump rope. Jump rope is great. Jump rope's getting the shoulders in there and stuff like that too. The coordination of jumping rope is awesome. But if you don't feel coordinated or feel like you can't get the right rhythm going for jump rope, you could literally just jump in between sets, just little pogo hops and stuff like that here and there. And, when you go to do these things, some of it might feel like embarrassing. It might feel weird. Your body might feel tight. You might look a little funny or silly doing it, but you got to get started. You can't really worry too much about some of that stuff. But yeah, all the stuff we're watching Sean Baker do in this video, he's doing like bounding. He was doing some pogo hops. He was doing some single leg. Just hopping up and down on one foot is pretty damn taxing, especially when you do the same foot kind of over and over again. And these are all things that you can implement fairly easy, kind of anywhere or anytime. You could do it on a walk. You can kind of mix in different hops and different jumps. I know I've been on some walks with Nsima where you jump up and like grab a leaf, on the tree type of thing. Those are all like really good disciplines. When I run in around Davis, sometimes when I like where I end, there's actually the Davis Farmers Market has all these like pillars, and I'll actually like run between all the pillars, like doing these like figure eights, and then there's a basketball hoop there, and I'll jump up as high as I can and try to just touch up in the net as high as I can get. And there's a couple posters that sometimes I can jump up and hit them, but they're like a little out of range for me. So
that's still right.
Sometimes sometimes it goes good, and sometimes it doesn't. But Sean Baker, he's I think he's 57 or something like that. So it's great to see him getting into some of this. I think that he's always loved like explosive movement and stuff when he's been here before. He's a beast. You see him doing, 405 deadlifts for sets of 20 and all kinds of crazy shit like that. But your strength to weight ratio is a really important factor. And it's something that if you feel light and you're strong for your body weight, you'll most likely, the feeling of feeling light, you hear like fighters and stuff say that, boxers and stuff say that they feel light, they feel quick, they feel good. That's usually a good sign that they're really healthy and feeling good.
Andrew, and this has actually motivated me a lot. I'm going to send you a link right now. If a lot of people haven't seen it, there's young Mike Tyson jump roping, and I don't think many people have like seen how impressive he was with the jump rope. Not just like normal jumping. And Andrew, I just sent it to you. This motivated the hell out of me to like really increase like my speed and my skill and even squat jumping. I don't know if you've ever seen Tyson squat jump with the jump rope. Boy, all right. Yeah, nah. This is wild. It's amazing. You'll see. So there's some simple hopping right there, simple coordination, right? Some side-to-side stuff. He's so smooth. But just wait, man. I think one thing that gets underestimated about jump roping is people get frustrated that it hits them, but the coordination aspect is a very big long-term benefit because anybody can become more coordinated. Yeah. It takes time, but anybody can become more coordinated. That right there, that ability to be that low, but continue to stay low and produce that type of force off the ground, doing double unders and triple unders. That when I saw this yesterday, I was like, okay, I need to learn this. I need to build that ability because it can be built, right? But it's just, I
can't stop looking at how pigeon-toed and Goda he is.
Yeah.
I mean, his toes are like almost glued together. He's just like perfect for the sport and perfect for what he was doing. He got so much muscle mass on him; it's fucking wild. He's jacked.
But his ability to be that low and pop off the ground while staying bouncy, he doesn't lose that aspect.
He's
of being
not
bouncy
jumping
when he gets
at
low.
all either. You know,
he's just.
It's like a tiny little like.
And that's one thing you learn when you jump rope. You're not actually jumping off the ground.
Jump, and then your timing gets way off.
Yeah, because initially,
my problem. Yeah,
like
initially when you start jump roping, you will feel the need to jump. But then as you start doing it more, you'll start to feel the pop. Like you'll start to be able to like on it. It feels like you pop off your bones.
Right.
You know, because like you're not actually planting your whole foot on the ground and whatever. It's like there's this bone that you kind of just pop off the ground with, and you get used to that part of your foot hitting the ground and popping up. That's what you get used to. And then it just feels like it doesn't feel like you're jumping anymore. You don't feel like muscle stress. It's all.
Even watching Tyson do this is kind of scary, which is kind of funny because he's like just hopping over a rope.
Yeah.
But it looks like he's about ready to like just go nuts on somebody, you know? He looks like he's about ready to like, snap into something. And that's what, hopefully some of your training, hopefully that's some of what it's helping you do is to become more explosive. I think being more explosive is a huge factor. I want to just say like the impact of cold plunging is just so remarkable. I mentioned kind of the mindset of like having the shower sort of wash away the day type thing. But a cold plunge almost literally does that. A cold plunge will change your mood right away. It's going to change the way you feel right away. Running and stuff like that and just the different stuff that I do. Sometimes the back gets tight, the body gets a little tight. You feel like a completely different person after you get a cold plunge. And I don't think, to me, it doesn't feel like it's something that just like wears off. You know, how people are like, oh, it's very temporary. But for me, it lasts for like a handful of hours and feels good. And a lot of times is something that helps me to feel a little bit better for the whole day. And because I feel better for the whole day, then that's a little bit more motivating. Like there's nothing more stifling than pain. There's nothing more stifling than having an injury or having something slightly wrong with you when you're trying to set out to do all these things all the time.
I want to mention because the cold plunge is amazing. I'm actually going to cold plunge when I get home. So that's another thing that can be helpful for recovery. But I think the cold plunge, and there's one other thing. It's called a shock T mat. I don't know if you ever heard of it, Andrew. It's it's a mat that has these spiky things on it. It's almost like it's acupressure, right? And they have a pillow and they have a mat for the body.
Yes.
I look at these things as ways to train your breathing to regulate your nervous system. Because the thing that people struggle with when they go and they cold plunge is they'll start breathing and then they can't control their breathing. They can't slow things down. But as you get better at it, you learn to actually just get in immediately and come to a place where you can be immediately calm, even though your body might be screaming, but you can calm yourself down with your own breath, which when you take that into combat, you take that into life, that's actually super beneficial. You can't panic when you're doing jujitsu. You can't panic when you're fighting. You need to get back into your breath and learn how to calm down. And on that Shakti mat, I use that thing a few times a week, usually before bed or at some point during the day. I don't know if you want to put it back on the screen, but when I use that, initially, the initial feeling you feel is like you're being stabbed. And you wanna see.
Is it kind of like needles? Or nails?
It's kind of like nails. Like every single one of those circles has multiple like sharp. They're very sharp, right? When you get on there, your initial things to seize up your body, and you want to take small breaths. But if you just breathe and let your body sink and relax and slow down your breathing, it starts to just kind of dissipate. And then like I'll be on there for like 30, 40 minutes before I go to bed. And it helps me calm down before bed, and I actually have a great night of sleep. But I look at these things as ways to train your breath to regulate your nervous system. That's what they can be super helpful with. And that is a very, very, very useful skill.
I actually think that your breathing and stuff like that is very much connected to your sleep. I think because like my sleep has improved quite a bit. It's still, something I'm still working on. I think ultimately what I've sort of discovered is that I don't like to sleep that much, and I don't maybe need as much sleep as I thought. Maybe I'm fine with 6 hours or something like that. I don't know why, but maybe that's just the way I'm wired. But I've learned that, by doing more cardiovascular style stuff and making myself breathe or pushing myself to breathe harder and then building out the capacity now to breathe way easier with hard, intense exercise has made a huge difference in my sleep. And then also my go-to now when I'm getting really pushed or really pressed, with like sprints or being on the bike that we have here at the gym, or doing the tank, or even doing sprints and stuff like that, or even in lifting, is to breathe more and more in and out of my nose, which is interesting because when I first started messing with nasal breathing, I was like, I'll never get the hang of this. Like this is never going to be a normal thing for me, and I certainly am not going to be able to do it that well when I'm running. And now it's more rare for me to get breathing hard. I guess with some exceptions, like sometimes when I'm lifting, there could be particular reasons to get tight and to hold my breath for certain things in certain ways. But yeah, it's been amazing. It's been amazing to really just challenge my breathing. It was something I mentioned to you, Andrew, like a while back. I asked you to do like some 3-minute like bike things, but then we had Pinot, what's his first name? Julian Pinot. When we had him here, he was showing you some stuff on the bike. And I think those things that help you during the day with like stress mitigation and a lot of that stuff, I think go in line with what you were saying about laying down on those mats. It's like anything that we can do to really mitigate and just bring down stress, even if it's just mental strategies on how to deal with life stresses, I think is really critical. But in this case, we're pointing to like a handful of physical things that might be able to help.
Yeah, it allows you to just, even if it's for a brief moment, to take a break from those intrusive thoughts, that anxious feeling. And just like you said, like, the cold plunge, some people think it fades away. Let's say it does. Why is it bad that you can get away from it, right? Like there's a freaking $1 trillion industry that sells you stuff to get away from this anxious feeling. Here's something that can do it. Now, I'm not going to say it's free. It's very expensive, or it can be, but it can also be very cheap. But like, why disregard it because it works? Like it still works, but what we're saying is it will work long-term as well. And even if you don't look at it that way, if you look at it as, all right, shit, for 30 seconds, I'm not going to be stressed out about that thing that I am super stressed out about. Or in my case, I was using the stealth bike to help mitigate some of the stress from an upcoming competition. For those 10 minutes, I was worry-free about the competition because I had a goal for that next 10 minutes. And then within those 10 minutes to up things, I thought about the competition. And then that made things a little bit more difficult, right? Especially the week of the comp. Man, it was really hard to get through that workout. The very next week after the comp was over, I had a conversation with Mark almost the whole time, and I was good. So it's just really cool to have a tool that's not in a bottle, that nobody can. I mean, obviously the equipment costs money, but nobody's like making money off of my anxiety in that moment. And I think that's really powerful because, like I've said this before to other people, like we're kind of on our own. We have to figure this stuff out on our own because it's not going to come from anybody else.
100%. One of the best things I ever purchased in my life is a hot tub. Hot tubs are amazing. They're underrated. No one ever really talks about it, but and it was great for my family. Like there's like a lot of bonding and a lot of, moments in the hot tub where we're just chilling and talking and relaxing. But what a great thing just to not have your phone with you and just to relax and spend like, whether the research is there or the chlorine is causing problems with your balls or like, you know what I mean? Like it's like there's a lot of give and take with these things, but I think that whether we're talking about cold plunging or going to do yoga or any of these practices that we might be discussing, what a great thing to have, an hour, a half an hour of just something different, where you're not as connected to social media and maybe all the other distractions and all the other things that are going on.
It must be nice, Mark. But so the thing is, though,
I want to say like the first hot tub that I bought, I want to say it was like $2,500 or maybe a little bit more. Somewhere. I mean, that's not cheap.
No, but
that's not like crazy.
No, and even better, I got one from Costco. It's inflatable. It's legit as a hot tub can be. And in some cases, I would say it's better because it's, if I sit in it, I could sink down and be like neck high, but because it is pretty shallow, I can stretch out. Like I can put my body in like some really cool positions that I couldn't in a legit hot tub. And this thing, I think it was like $600.
Nice.
And it only goes up to 104 degrees, but
that's good.
That's as hot as they get.
They don't really? Oh, okay. See, I wasn't sure. It doesn't stay there very long though. That's the thing. Like, once it hits that temperature, you get in it, you move around, you get comfortable, and then you look over, it's like, oh, it's already at 102 or whatever. But dude, I love this thing. It is so nice to get in there. And, again, you're outside, right? I'm staring at the trees in, my neighbor's backyard. And it's so calming. It's nice. And again, sure, like it wasn't cheap either, but it wasn't thousands of dollars. And you get the same benefits as that other thing. And, some of the give and take, because, I do have to put chlorine in it and all that stuff. But, dude, I have a hot tub in my backyard. Like, I never thought I'd be able to say that. But it's nice to have that, like, after a long training day or whatever. You get in there and just like, oh, dude. And then the sleep. Oh, especially if you have kids. My 3-year-old gets in there. He's, like, yawning within, like, 15 seconds. It's amazing. Yeah.
He probably loves jumping in with you, huh?
Oh, yeah, he goes nuts. Yeah, he bobbles, because it has little jets everywhere. Yeah.
There's no shame in wanting to have great sex. And there's no shame for wanting your member to perform the way it should be. A lot of us sometimes have some issue with blood flow, but that's where JoyMode comes in. Let me read you these ingredients because it's not going to be very long. Vitamin C, L-citrulline, arginine nitrate, and Panax ginseng. The cool thing about the ingredients in this is that they're all natural and that they're going to help you increase your blood flow, not just everywhere. So you could use this as a pre-workout. You will increase blood flow when it counts to where you need it. So if you know you're going to have a good time a little bit later, 60 minutes beforehand, put some JoyMode in some water, drink it. And then when it comes time to perform, and you know what I mean by perform, you're going to be ready because you're going to be flowing. JoyMode's going to help you do that. Andrew, how can they get it?
Yes, that's over at usejoymode.com/powerproject. And at checkout, enter promo code POWERPROJECT to save 20% off your entire order. Again, usejoymode.com/powerproject, promo code POWERPROJECT, links in the description as well as the podcast show notes.
All right, so I got to give the praises over right now, though, to RopeFlow. We haven't talked about that on this episode yet, but we were talking about jump rope and how beneficial it is for the ability to do light hops. You can keep a jump rope with you and you can go anywhere with it, right? It's a skill that you can improve. You can improve your coordination. And we all want to be able to jump when we're older, which is something you don't see people doing. But RopeFlow is particularly special because you're able to work all the rotational capacities of like your wrists, which you don't really think about initially, your shoulders, your spine. I'm doing a lot of fancy stuff here, but honestly with RopeFlow, you don't have to do fancy shit. You can just literally do the forward patterns and the underhand patterns, and your body can get a lot out of that. But the thing I love about RopeFlow is like, it's a skill. And over time, you're going to be able to open up your shoulders, the rotational abilities of your spine. And as you can see in this video, it's a full body thing. Like your body is working together to help you move that rope around. And it's just like, it's one of those things that I seek it every day because it always makes the body feel better, especially the rotation. You know, like we'll do a lot of things in the gym that have to do with rotation. Like there's the landmine work, right? Which strengthen your rotational pressing. There are med ball tosses that you can do in a rotational aspect, but the rope is a dynamic way to work fast rotation. Whether you're using a lighter rope, which you'll be able to go faster with, or a heavy rope, which I like using, I look at it like being like movement Tai Chi, right? And if people know what Tai Chi is, it's that martial art that you see like 70s, 80s, and 90-year-olds doing out in parks in China and sometimes here in the US. And some people are like, what are they doing? Well, they're moving smoothly through ranges of motion.
Paul Chek loves shit like that. You know, he loves movements like that. And for years, I don't know if he still messes with it, but he used to stack rocks. I don't know if you've ever seen anyone do that, but like just interesting practices. I don't know if there's like particular techniques to it, but just basically have a bunch of rocks in your yard and you just stack them up in different formations. And it's like, that's going to give people like a form of movement. That's a great way to microdose movement into your day-to-day. And some of the movement that we're showing Nsima do with like the rope flow, this stuff is really very, very simple. It's very simple to start to do. And yes, it can be complicated in trying to pick up the more complex movements, but really it just all takes time.
Can you go to the first video on the page, Andrew?
Anyone can learn how to, twirl these ropes around even just a little bit. I was showing my wife this morning just some stuff to do with the rope because her shoulder bothers her here and there. And I was like, I think if you just twirl these ropes around a little bit here and there, I'll just leave this, I'll just leave this one rope in the living room, just use it here and there. That'll probably help your shoulder quite a bit. Because I was noticing that when I was doing the rope flow stuff the other day, that my shoulder was like lighting up a ton. And I didn't even know that shoulder was kind of, I didn't even know there was like anything going on with that shoulder. But I could feel it, working like the rotator cuff quite a bit. So it's going to address shit that you probably don't even really know that you have.
If you look at the single arm movements here, the cool thing is that all of us have one side that we rotate better on, and we have a weaker rotational side. That's with our spine, that's with our shoulder, that's with our wrists. And you saw some of the single arm movements there. Well, you notice when you're trying to twirl the rope behind you, probably for a lot of people, your non-dominant side might be the side where you find a lot of like tension in your shoulder. And that's the thing. It's like you'll practice certain specific movements and you notice, oh, I can't get my body to move in that direction. But it's like one of those puzzles because it's like you're not just like when you're doing one of those throwing patterns that you see me doing there, you're not just using your shoulder. You're also rotating your spine like you were going to throw a ball. Because if you throw a ball at somebody, you don't just go like this, right? You rotate, create power, and you throw like a pitcher would. And you'll notice when I do that with a rope, there's a rotation of the spine and the scapula, and then it throw the rope. The rope is an extension of your rotational ability, and that's why it's so powerful.
It's one of the beautiful things about a golf swing. I don't have a beautiful golf swing, but it's one of the beautiful things about when you watch somebody who does have a beautiful golf swing is, I think you have a tendency to pay attention to that, to the golf club coming forward.
Yeah.
You have a tendency to kind of see that and like whack, and the guy, it made this noise, and the guy, smashed the hell out of the ball, and he drove it 300 yards or 400 yards or whatever the hell it is. But really, there's so much going on in that part where they're twisting back. I know the guys have like different clubs and different shit nowadays that some of the old timers kind of complain about, but they can kind of wrap their body around their own body so much that the club itself will coil and kind of almost wrap around their body, almost like something you would see in like a cartoon.
Yeah.
They like are able to really like pretzel their body into these crazy positions. And if you see, a lot of golfers, more modern golfers are in pretty good shape, but they're still like just, kind of run-of-the-mill, average Joe guy with a little bit of a pot belly who can rotate the shit out of his body and still smack the hell out of that ball. So a lot of this stuff, a lot of this rope flow stuff and some of these things I think are great because it's addressing some issues of the spine that, lifters may not have really noticed or hopefully for some lifters, they're young enough to where their body hasn't calcified quite yet. Their body hasn't, gotten super stiff just yet, and they can really avoid a lot of this.
Yeah.
Because it'd be great to see, people like our friends like Kenny Williams and some of these young people coming up that are jacked as hell. How great would it be to see Kenny be able to keep that athleticism that he has, which is like, his athleticism is pretty wild.
Yeah.
So I'd love to see him to be able to keep that.
Yeah. And for anyone interested in this stuff, I have like a full foundational course. It's on school by the time this podcast comes out. So literally within 4 to 6 weeks, you'll be able to be pretty fluid with a rope at the end of it, and it's free. So
does it make you sore or stiff or?
So this is the thing. I think when people start out, especially people who are either you're sedentary and you don't lift much, or you always lift and that's the only thing you do, having a rope help move you into these rotational patterns might make you a little bit sore, because most of the time your spine is stuck in a neutral position with almost everything that you do. Most people don't rotate much. But that's the thing. You want that rotational capacity back. You want to be able to rotate well on both sides. So you might feel a little bit sore because your spine is starting to move in ways it hasn't. But as you improve that spinal ability, then you're not going to, like for me, I don't feel sore at all. I just feel like I got a great amount of blood flow and movement throughout my whole upper and lower body, right? And my coordination, because again, the rope it's a mirror for your rotational ability, right? If you can't rotate with your shoulder here and throw, you're going to see the rope lose slack and it'll slow down.
Yeah.
But if you can, you'll be able to put everything through that rope, and it's a mirror of your rotational ability from side to side. As that improves, you're going to notice that the things with the rope look smoother, right? And the last thing I'll say about it is it's with what we do in the gym, generally we get a lot of compressive effects. And axial compression, or the compression of the spine, is good because over time that'll help us build bone density. But if we're constantly getting compression, then we're not getting a lot of things that let us move and bend the spine and the lateral and rotational capacities it has. We're always compressed. So what do we have that can allow for some decompression? Some people like hanging off the bar. Some people sit in traction machines. But the rope is a level of light decompression, because whether you use a heavy rope or even a lighter rope, that slight momentum you're getting from it, allowing you to move and rotate your spine from side to side, is going to be providing you a light amount of traction for your wrists, shoulders, and back, which is why a lot of people end up feeling really good afterwards, because when you become more fluid in these motions, it'll help you decompress your spine on your own.
There's a lot of weird hidden amazing things in some of what we're talking about today. And I think that the cool thing is that if you treat your body well, your body will be able to, it's going to be more efficient at a lot of things if you treat your body really well. And then if you're thinking about it from a meathead perspective of like, I don't know, what are they really talking about? If you listen to Mike Israetel's most recent video where he talks about, how to kind of hyper focus on getting jacked, one of his requirements was that you do the exercise better. You do the exercise with better form and technique. Well, what's the limiting factor in your form and technique? Maybe your limiting factor is that you just bench press all the time and your shoulders are stuck forward. And so therefore it's hard for you to get your arms back on the squat and do your squat with better form. So you can kind of even look at some of this from a meathead perspective and say, this is going to make me a little bit more fluid for some of the other movements that I'm doing in the gym. It's going to help with recovery. It's also going to be something that is, going to help you from like a longevity perspective in terms of, keeping your back mobile and stuff like that. But when you're trying to do your RDLs and you're trying to do certain movements they do have a certain requirement and skill set to them where you have to learn how to, put your spine in a certain position. You have to learn how to get the maximum stretch from your hamstrings. And I was watching Nsima the other day. I was in here doing like a few different exercises, and Nsima was doing a couple different exercises. I think you were doing like a box squat and you were doing some other stuff in between. But he was saying when he was doing his box squats, he's like, I could feel like different compartments of my back, and I can kind of, flex them and brace my body in a certain way, which maybe without the rope flow, maybe you would know how to do that anyway because you learned how to flex all different kinds of stuff from bodybuilding. But a lot of what we're talking about here today can help you get more in tune with your body to the point where you'll be able to, precisely be able to not only flex, but to be able to stretch or to be able to move some of these things. So I think sometimes when the body gets stuck, you move in a range of motion, and like you go to move your arm, say forward, and you forget that to move your arm forward, you can actually just start to, there's so many different things that happen with moving an arm forward that you could move it way further, way faster, way stronger if you're able to coordinate your entire body into it.
So Nsima, can you let us know, right? Because if I want to get into rope flow, I can't just grab any rope. I guess I could, but what would you recommend people look into when it comes to wanting to start this rope flow stuff?
So that's the thing. It's like, I went to Home Depot the other day because a lot of people have been saying, oh, you know, these flow ropes can be kind of expensive. Like some of the cheaper flow ropes are on like $40-$50. The heavier ropes can be like 80, 90, 120. But the thing is like they're very thick ropes, and you can't buy those types of ropes at Home Depot. So if you do want to just start trying to do some stuff with rope flow and you don't want to buy ropes, go to Home Depot and try to get yourself some braided ropes, maybe as thick as you can get. The problem with those ropes is that they come apart very easily.
They fray.
They fray super easily, and because they don't have a lot of structure to the rope. When you're doing it, like the rope is really light and it almost is kind of floaty. It has no heft to it. So, I mean, I obviously sell ropes at my website, but you can, you know,
what's your website?
TheStrongerHuman.store. I sell ropes from Winding Rope. I partnered with them. So there's flow ropes, heavy ropes, all those types of stuff over there. But I would say, like, just try to get yourself the cheapest rope that you can find. You can get the cheapest rope on the site, which I think is like $35. If you don't want to get yourself another rope, but just start practicing the foundational patterns.
If you want to try it too, you can just try it with a jump rope. If you have a jump rope already, I mean, that's a decent thing to start with.
Exactly.
It's not going to have all the, you know, weight and everything that exactly the way that maybe other ropes might have, but it's a good way to start.
Beach towel.
Yep.
I've seen some people start off trying to use like a long beach towel and holding both sides and doing that.
Shit, if you get that thing like kind of wet too, you're fucked. It's actually really challenging. It's really hard.
Actually, that'll make it heavier. So that makes a lot of sense.
Dude, it's crazy too. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff. You know, when I get out of the cold plunge, I'll still mess around with the towel, but dude, wring that fucker out. Like get that thing submerged in the water, wring that thing out. You'll never have done anything stronger for your grip. Like that shit's fucking awesome.
And I think, like, just to start the practice, it doesn't need to be an intense thing. I love doing it every day for like I do it every day a lot. But when you're starting out, again, it's just something that can help you learn how to rotate well again. And like I said, the course is free, so you can get yourself a towel, a rope, or whatever, and just start doing it. But you do it more and more, you're going to start noticing little tiny things in your wrist when you're moving your wrist around and doing some of these things, because there are patterns that have you using your wrist. There are patterns that have you rotating the scapula. You notice that you probably can't rotate as well one way versus the other. And I've noticed it play a big role in helping even my jiu-jitsu improve, because now, since my rotation is so clean on both sides, when I do certain sweeps, I'm able to feel the momentum of my opponent better, because one of the things of getting better with the rope is feeling the momentum of the rope and following the momentum of the rope.
I'm sure the people you roll with are listening and they're like, God, no. Stop getting better.
Yeah.
You're like, please.
Slow down.
And Nsima's sitting here talking, like working on his extensors, just laughing.
But I know I'm going to shut up about this, but again, man, it's so good because it's low impact. It's like we do so many things that beat ourselves up, that when you can do something that brings you benefit without beating your body up and actually helps other things progress, that's money right there. That's like making gains without having to spend energy. Literally.
I think also too, you know, from like a flow standpoint and trying to like, you know, figure out how to maybe just treat your body a little bit better and to give yourself some tender loving care. We go back to the idea of trying to figure out a way to have your workouts make you feel better. I think that there's all kinds of different workouts that you can do to help make you feel better. They don't necessarily have to be what we're discussing today with the rope flow and some of the recovery techniques and even just like going on like a light run. You could still be a meathead. You could still go in and train, and you could still go in and train with a lot of intensity. It's just that like you might want to pick and choose your battles, pick and choose how hard you want your workouts to be and when. And, you know, like the other day I was just like, I just feel like training my back. So I probably did like 8 sets of rows.
You did a lot of sets.
Yeah, I did a lot of sets of rows. It felt awesome. I kept changing the weight. I kept messing with it. I did drop sets. I did all kinds of different things. It felt incredible. I was stretching my lats in between, just trying to like learn how they, you know, learn how to flex them better, learn how to like, I don't know, be on that machine that we have out there differently and posturing myself in some different ways. I know not everyone is like completely obsessed with lifting maybe the way that we are, but you know, I love this stuff. So I love like learning new stuff and trying some other things out. But in between, I was also doing the reverse hyper. And in between that, I was grabbing the WEC shakers and I was doing some like pogo hops. And that workout made me feel awesome. We had a day where we were doing some podcasting and some other stuff. And I just find the breakup of the intellectual with the, you know, the soothing of the beast, kind of like lifting type stuff. And
talking about nutting?
Almost like
soothing of the beast.
Yeah, nutting. Yeah. I went in the gym, I jerked off. It was fucking great.
That's what that was.
Yeah.
Oh.
No,
I touched that handle and I was like, what the fuck? Like, why is this slimy?
It smells like bleach in here. You know, sometimes lifting to me feels like hitting like a heavy bag. You know, sometimes it feels like that. Like you just kind of went in there and there was like whatever this stuff is that's in your head, this fog, as Mike Israetel called it. Yeah. He's disturbed. Maybe we shouldn't have him on the show again. He's starting to scare me.
Real talk, though, we actually need a heavy bag, man. The effects, the beneficial effects that it has on bone density. Oh, yeah. I've been trying to think of like, maybe I should just get a membership at a boxing gym so I can just go hit a heavy bag. Because like that constant poundage, as you get older, fuck, that's actually super useful.
What a great kind of extra workout too.
Yeah.
Something just different.
Yeah.
For people that don't, you know, always love to lift the weights the way that we do or jerk off in the gym.
Everybody likes to do that though. Yeah.
Yeah, but, you know, kind of blending these exercises together. I think, Andrew, I've seen you kind of more recently, you know, just hopping on the bike, right? And doing some stuff like that. And it's just for each person, it's probably going to be a little different for them to find the movement or the things that help make them feel better. But, you know, keep exploring, keep poking around and kind of see what those things are. Again, there's so many options when it comes to lifting and so many options when it comes to the gym that there's just no reason to really pigeonhole yourself into kind of one thing. I do understand there's a lot of people who are like, yeah, but I want to be jacked. Or yeah, I want to be shredded. Again, it's a long game. And the easier that it is for you to be jacked or the easier that it is for you to be shredded, the longer you're going to be able to maintain that. Because who really cares if you just got like in decent shape for August or something? It's like, that's kind of cool. Oh man, hey, remember when I was, it's like, no one cares about that. You try to stay in good shape all the time so that you feel good about yourself, you feel confident. And then on top of looking good, you're able to move well also, and you're able to be strong.
Yeah. Imagine being the jacked dad, right? The jackedest. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be jacked for August, you know? But what you were getting at with me on the assault bike is like, I hated that dang thing. Like if I could pick anything, like I'd rather do burpees than that. Like, you know, like it's like the worst form of exercise I could think of.
You'd rather do burpees though?
In that moment, yes.
Okay.
Now I really like it. I love the fact that, you know, 10, 12 minutes later, I'm completely thrashed, but I got in so much work. And that's how I feel about jump roping right now. I don't enjoy it, but maybe exposing myself a couple times here and there, I might learn to enjoy it. You know, hearing like the benefits that you talk about all the time, especially like with the feet, you know, like I need stronger feet, especially after how swollen my right one's been. I need to expose myself to that. And I think we need to do that more often, right? Because like you said, we get stuck in these pigeonholes and we're like, no, like this is what I do. I squat, bench, dead. I don't do that other stuff. That stuff's lame. But it's like, well, dude, what if that's the thing that unlocks so much more potential, right? Because I know for me, my cardio, my gas tank is going to go up exponentially with the assault bike. So I'm going to be doing that on a regular basis now. But I had to try it because I hated it.
Yeah.
Now I love it. Well, love it. I like it.
All these things hurt a little bit at the start, man. Remember when I started jump roping? It's like the ankles for that thing, that was just like a limiting factor.
Even just like right now, like my legs are like stiff. You know, I just ran, so like my feet they feel uncomfortable. But if I was to actually just jump rope for a few minutes, they'd actually feel better. The start of it would suck. You know, I'd be like, like it doesn't feel great. But the start of it wouldn't be comfortable. But if I just did it for a few minutes, my recovery would probably improve from it.
But you know, this is why I love all this. I love all the people we're able to talk to, because there's certain things that just like reap benefits for a long time. That little balance drill that I learned from Brian McGinty I do it on top of the WEC deck because the slant isn't crazy. When you're on a single leg up on your toes, right? And you have something like doing that. I do that every day because like it literally helps me like get my ankles working to stabilize through the whole foot, right? So if I ever had any ankle pain, immediately after I do that, the ankle pain's gone. Because it's like you're driving blood to the ankles by balancing, right? So it's one of those things that like that thing right there has helped to strengthen my ankles, my balance so much over the years from just learning that one little thing. It's wild.
I also think there's just like tons of ways to modify your lifting where just maybe you're implementing other things during the actual workout. So for example, I did some sumo deadlifts the other day. I just did a sumo deficit deadlift. I'm like, let me just get like more range out of this. Let me see if I can kind of move better. And it was actually pretty challenging for me to like squat down and get my hips kind of in the right position. So I did a few sets where it was kind of more like a sumo deficit stiff leg deadlift. And then I did a few where I was more upright. And then I did a few where I did reps. And I kind of held my posture from the top and then tried to squat down and keep my upper body like super upright. And just by doing that, it's like that small change of just lifting while standing on some plates made a huge difference in my posture and just made the exercise challenging in a completely different way. And that was the exact same thing I was doing with the rows the other day. I was just letting my shoulders, letting my arms really almost like feel like they're coming out of socket almost, almost pushing them forward. And then I've been doing the same thing with dips. I've been doing the same things with like dumbbell bench pressing, just letting those dumbbells just really just almost like pry everything apart, just sort of try to ways to just try to open up everything. And it's feeling great. So I think these are really easy things to implement into your day-to-day, into your workouts. You're doing, lunges and all these different movements. Just see if you could, rather than always just adding weight, maybe see if you can get a little deeper range of motion. Because again, in this instance, in this case, for this show, we're talking about, having your workouts that are kind of making you feel better than when you started. And I don't know if every workout should be that way all the time. Maybe they should be. But I think that probably more often than not, a lot of your workouts should be that way. And if I think back to even just like some of my most intense workouts, even the percentage of the, if I was to look at the percentage of what I did for a particular day, most of it would have been pretty comfortable. Yeah. There only would be like I would be like, I did 2 sets of 3 and like that shit was pretty intense. That was pretty hard. But the rest of it would have probably felt pretty good.
And what you're talking about there too, like even just like that extra range of motion during your lifts, what's that doing for your soft tissue? Like you're not like scraping or putting pressure on your tissue, but you're opening that tissue up. And when we think about people that don't move much in their sedentary or people that only lift, they end up having pretty stiff tissues around these areas, right? Their lower back, their like spine doesn't tend to like move well. Right here, this tissue here, they don't get much stretch there because they're always benching with force, so they can't move into that end range. So using weights to push your body into those end ranges is actually great for your flexibility and great for your soft tissue. And it's not surprising that you feel great afterwards,
I was just thinking you would probably dig this, Nsima. It's from at reinvigorate.co. It's basically a skateboard with like balls instead of wheels.
You do that inside.
Yeah, so you could skate inside, but it would be so good for ankle mobility and just recovery.
I would love this.
Yeah, it just came out. I don't know. I think they're pretty expensive just because it's like a one-man show. But like, I thought this was really cool. Like, dude, I know Nsima would love this.
Reinvigorate.co.
Yeah. Yeah, so shout out to the guy. I don't know. He just looks like a skater, and he just like put something together. But like, check this out. Look at the way he's moving on the deck there. It's like, dude, that looks like it would be so much fun.
That's really cool.
Yeah,
it's probably way safer, right? I mean,
oh yeah,
you're trying all this
indoors.
Shit.
Yeah,
you're also trying all this crap all the time, like on a skateboard. It's got wheels on it and sliding out from underneath you.
Oh, that's really sick.
Yeah,
that's really sick.
Yeah, this guy's he's on to something for sure. So hopefully, this thing takes off, because I think this thing's genius.
I want the guys to comment, by the way. Whose Instagram has been ousted by the fucking new additions to the algorithm? Because Instagram, like, you'll scroll and then they'll show you 4 videos that they'll think you like in succession. And I sent this screenshot to Mark and Andrew the other day, and I was like, I'm filled with sin, because I'm scrolling and then it's just ass. I'm like, whoa. And the thing about these things that they do on Instagram is like all the videos are kind of playing at the same time. So you get a medley of different sounds when it does that. I'm just like, God, I'm spending a little bit too much time with my eyes on asses that Instagram's now like, send him more ass. It's fucked up. It's fucked up.
I don't like that when I open Instagram, it'll go to just some random reel. I'm like literally like it's cover like full like screen. I was like, what the fuck? Like, I don't even know what this is. And
at least it's probably wholesome. It's probably like some dad content.
Yeah,
right?
I was gonna say it's usually like dad jokes and shit like that, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm pretty proud of how responsible I am with Instagram.
Man,
but
bro.
Yeah,
fuck, I'm such a dirty man.
So Instagram has kind of turned into like Instagram figured out like Pornhub, basically, like where the images are moving. And is that what it is?
Dude, you know what? Let me just do an experiment right now. I'm going to do an experiment. Let's see. What are the first 4? What?
That's awesome.
So who else is afflicted? Because I am.
And mine's a lot of jujitsu.
I'm more shocked about something we'll discuss off the air than I expected.
That one that you sent in the middle of the podcast, dude. I was like, please do not send that.
She was 4 feet. So
that could be a thing. I could see how that could be a thing.
Pocket rocket, man.
Stuff her in your carry-on, maybe, type of thing.
Definitely could fit.
Yeah. Strength is never weakness. Weakness is never strength. Catch you guys later. Bye.
Middle of a podcast. I'm like, what? I'm like, oh, maybe it's something he wants me to pull up, and I'm like, what the fuck?
That's great.